The Pledge of Allegiance. We'll have roll call, Tracy, please.
Arbogast.
Here.
Garnos.
Here.
Gisselbeck.
Here.
Heller.
Here.
Meisenheimer.
Here.
Solberg. Solem. Walder.
Here.
Wilkins. And York.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Moving on to our agenda, I'd like to begin by welcoming Mr. Gall's government class again to our council meetings. We know that school's started, so welcome. We enjoy having you here. So, under agenda item number 1 is the approval of the minutes, and we have a correction to the August 6, 2007 minutes. I'd like to read the error that was inadvertently omitted. Motion by Walder, seconded by Garnos, to approve a contingency account budget transfer in the amount of $14,300 to the Fire Department SCBA equipment account number 101-42220-43651 for the purchase of 4 air packs, and that motion was carried. And I'd like to have a motion then to add that to the minutes of August 6, 2007. Is there a motion? So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Solberg. Any discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Moving on to the city council meeting held on August the 20th, 2007. Could we have approval of the minutes, please? So moved by Alderman Heller and seconded by Alderman Meisenheimer. Are there any additions or corrections? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 2 is an application for a temporary, that's Saturday, October the 13th, from 5 o'clock p.m. to midnight, a retail on-sale wine license from the Northeastern Shrine Club located at County Fair Banquet Hall. And we'll begin with a public hearing. And Stanton, I'll call on you first to speak.
This is similar to a request you folks would have had almost about a year ago at the same location by the same organization, and it's identical in almost all respects, and certainly you had the authority then, and you do again tonight to grant this if you choose.
Thank you, Stanton. Is there anyone else here to speak to the issue? If not, then I'll close the public hearing and go to council action. May we have a motion then to approve the application for a temporary wine license to the Northeastern Shrine Club at County Fair Banquet Hall? So moved by Alderman Solberg. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Solem. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 3 is consideration of snow removal quotes for the 2007 and 2008 season. Mike Rye.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the council. On August 27th, we had 9 bidders bid snow removal services for us. The 9 bidders were accepted at the August 28th Public Works meeting. I handed out another handout tonight because in your information it only shows 7 bidders where there was actually 9. We'd like to accept all of those. I put an explanatory page in there of how we arrive at who we select to perform the services. If you've read it, that would be fine, or if you'd like, I could read it for you. But sometimes it's kind of helpful. In these snow removal quotes, it also puts us in line for if you have a FEMA disaster. We've already bid some of these services out, so you can go right to work rather than having to bid, an official bid letting. So what I'm looking for then is these 9 bidders to be accepted, be hired as we need them.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a motion then to approve the 9 contractors that put quotes in for the snow removal for this season? So moved by Alderman Giselbeck. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderwoman York. Any debate, discussion?
I have a question for
Yes.
Mike. What's this compared to last year? I didn't go back to look.
It's most of them are right at about 0. There's a couple that went up, and that's only because they were really cheap last year. they were trying to get back in. But otherwise, it's up about 2 to 3%. In parts, we know that parts and repairs are up a minimum of 4 to 5%. In fuel, when this stuff was done last year, was $2.30 a gallon, and it's, well, you have to figure $4 now. So I'm real comfortable with those increases. It looks like we took the hit last year.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Any other questions for Mike? If not, then all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you again, Mike.
Thanks.
Moving on to item number 4 is the Tall Grass Prairie Edition. 2 parts. Rick, I'll let you lead us through that.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the council. Excuse my appearance. I'm still drying off from coaching soccer, and it was 93 degrees, and big men that are air-cooled just don't cool very well when it's 93. So excuse my appearance. We will get through this if you would, Mayor. First of all, we have a second reading of the ordinance, which is It's an ordinance amending zoning district boundaries by zoning and rezoning real property in the northwest quarter, section 23, township 117, range 53 west, and the southwest quarter of section 14, township 117, range 53 west. We're going to zone that and rezone it to A1 agricultural zoning district. If you would open the public hearing, Mayor.
Okay, I'll open it for a public hearing. And Rick, will you have that up on the screen for the television viewers?
Just to provide a location, I guess. To give a point of reference, that's the location of Tallgrass Prairie Edition. The cursor is moving from the upper left-hand corner of the screen right now to the lower right-hand corner of the screen. That's Highway 20. You can see the divided highway. The intersection here where the cursor is now is the intersection of Highway 20 and South Lake Drive. We know this is a Paradise Beach subdivision. City Park is located right here with this campground, just to give us a frame of reference. The Airport Industrial Park. Okay. Tallgrass Prairie Edition is wholly owned by the City of Watertown. It was acquired for several purposes: to maintain open space, to control development in flood-prone areas, wetland protection and enhancement, to maintain and restore a tallgrass prairie remnant, and as a potential site for the Terry Redland Freshwater Institute. Portions of this are already located within the city limits, and the lower portions right here where the hand is right now are already located within the city limits. So it's this portion, all the portions above the lines. And represented here is Lot 1 and Lot 2, and you'll see in our packet that at the recommendation of the City Council, this has been combined in the revised plat to be all one lot. So it'll be Lot 1 and Lot 2. It's kind of confusing, so we didn't have to change all the petitions. We kept this as the exhibit. So we do have 3 lots according to the exhibit for the petition for annexation and zoning. Note that these areas are, of course, contiguous to the City of Watertown, which makes this property eligible for annexation. In terms of annexation, the county prefers annexation of entire adjacent road right-of-ways, and you'll see that applicable to the South Dakota Highway 20 right-of-way. Adjacent zoning includes R3 multifamily district, R1 single-family district. The R3 is up here. The R1 includes City Park and the Benson Speedway, Casino Speedway here. And then this area down here is zoned I1 light industrial. The requested zoning for the area represented on this drawing is Lot 1 and Lot 2 is A1, which is agricultural district. And it requires a rezoning of this portion right here from I1 to A1. And then we will be affixing the zoning for the remainder of the area to be annexed up here as A1 agricultural district in the city of Watertown. Note that the A1 agricultural district requires a minimum of 35 acres, and that's one of the reasons why the Plan Commission recommended combining lots 1 and 2 so that we would have conforming lots, so that certainly makes sense, and that has been reflected in the revised plat documents. The I-1 light industrial district requirements require a 30,000 square foot minimum area and a street frontage of 150 feet minimum. We have certainly met all those requirements. As to access, this access point here exists with the crossover. We are awaiting DOT's response to our request to maintain that as a full access point there. We are anticipating from the city standpoint accessing the city-owned property along South Lake Drive on 2 locations. And in our industrial park, we can provide for an access at this point. And in Lot 3 here, the area designated as Lot 3, you'll see that there's an access point here and the extension of Lockheed Avenue as the access point here. You'll note that the Plan Commission approved the annexation in their resolution, recommending no zoning designation without a hearing for the zoning. And the annexation to include the entire adjacent South Dakota Highway 20 right-of-way and platting within a year. The recommendation as to zoning, again, extend the zoning to include the South Dakota Highway 20 right-of-way. And again, platting within 1 year. And there also comes with a recommendation on the plat approval as well, with the recommendation for combining lots 1 and 2 into a single lot. So I think that pretty well covers everything, and now it's a matter of other folks that might have an opportunity or need an opportunity to speak to this, and we'll answer any questions as need be.
Thank you, Rick. Is there anyone else who would like to speak to this issue? Yes, you can come up and identify yourself at the mic.
Mayor, council people, thank you for having me here. My name is Linda Williams. My husband and I live at 2 Louise Drive, which is right on the Paradise Beach subdivision. First of all, I'd like to go on record as saying on the staff notes that were done, under the staff notes, the meeting that was held on the August 20th, it identified me as a representative of the homeowners. I am not. I am here only as an interested adjacent landowner of this. So I would like the minutes corrected or amended to reflect that. And my next question is Mr. Johnson here, Brad Johnson? Okay.
No, he is not.
I received a phone call this afternoon, and I thank you very much, Herb, from Herb and Brad Johnson. It was a conference call, and I was hoping that Brad would be here tonight to tell me exactly what, or to tell everyone exactly what was said to me. Since he is not, Herb, and you were privy to the conversation, would you be willing to get up and explain what was explained to me so the other members of the neighborhood who are here?
For the record, I'm Herb Bloomquist, Public Works Director. What was explained to Mayor Fox, Rick Schlechter, and I by Brad Johnson this afternoon was back when this property was purchased by the city. I'll use the cursor as a point of reference. The western portion, as outlined, this area here, was purchased with FEMA funds. And because of that, had a deed restriction placed on the property that it could never be developed other than, I believe, as a parking lot, period. So that would entail no filling, no other construction. The eastern portion of the lot, this area here, was purchased by both a private donation towards a future public use kind of building, such as the Terry Redland Freshwater Institute or something thereof, and also with Ducks Unlimited funds. So this property, when the city purchased, was purchased with some pretty strict understandings on how it could and would be used. It's the intent now, because there's no longer a desire to move forward with the Terry Redland Freshwater Institute, to in fact turn this back into what it is right now, which is open space, maintain it as open space. In fact, funds permitting, obviously, I think there's there's a road that runs basically across like this. We would plan to remove that, as well as I think there's a power line running across there, and truly restore the tall grass aspect of this area. Probably do some additional wetlands development. And so I guess the point I'm trying to make here, based on conversations this afternoon, I know there was some concerns from the Paradise Beach people that, wonder what's really going on here. The obvious answer is nothing other than we're bringing the property into the city. So if anything, we have more control over it than what we have in the past. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Herb. Any questions for Mr. Bloomquist? Yes.
If I might have some time to further elaborate on this. Again, under the staff notes, and this was under the August 8th of '07 meeting, the topic was the Plan Commission approval of annexation resolution number, and it gives the resolution number, going to subtopic, which reads, to allow agricultural building right on non-conforming Lot 1. Could someone please explain what agricultural building right on non-conforming lots mean?
I'll take a shot at that, and actually, that bullet is not applicable anymore. And that was if that bullet was intended as a recommendation to the Plan Commission, if in fact that was to address the issue of the Lot 1, 31.9 acres, which would have been non-conforming. The Plan Commission chose, in their guidance, and a good move, quite honestly, to combine lots 1 and 2. So that note that Mrs. Williams read there is not applicable anymore.
Thank you, Rick.
Okay, under the agricultural, and I think it's a good thing that this is being rezoned. I want to go on record as saying that. But under the uses for agricultural district, the permitted uses are agricultural activities, related farm buildings, on-site constructed single-family detached residential structures, type 1 manufactured homes, public parks and recreation areas, modular homes, orchards and tree farms, reserved, and we don't know what that means, railroads and utility substations. Now, am I not correct in assuming that I am a real estate broker? If I bring someone in and they buy this, they submit an offer to the city, it has to fall under the permitted uses. Is that correct?
If the city were to transfer this property, which I don't think that's the issue here, but if it were to happen, given the zoning, as in any zoning district, there are permitted uses, which Mrs. Williams just read off for the A1 district. So when an individual organization purchases property in the future, someone can, or that individual organization can come to our building permits counter, request a building permit for a structure, as long as there are 35 acres minimum. That is the minimum requirement for the A1 district. And in that instance, if all the setback requirements are met, though it's for one of the uses that are already enumerated by Mrs. Williams, and the minimum 35 acres is met in terms of the minimum lot size requirement, yes, a permit can be issued for any of those uses. There are also a number of enumerated special condition uses that require, if a similar property owner in the future were interested in one of those special exception uses, those require Board of Adjustment hearings, which is a public process in which adjoining landowners are notified, and a public hearing is held to address any issues that might be brought up, specifically by our ordinance, access in and out, site design, parking, lighting, landscaping, general compatibility with the area, refuse, and utilities. So hopefully that answers the question.
I would like to add, though, given the way that the funds were applied for this specific area, how they were acquired, how the land was acquired, it's a big if that this would ever, number one, be sold, and an even bigger if that anything would be allowed to be constructed on, because this, in all honesty, is storage area for the Big Sioux, or for Lake Compesca, and for that matter, the Big Sioux in a 1997 flood event. So the whole idea behind purchasing this property was part of the mitigation for the 1997 flood. And so, I would certainly hope this council would, keep that position and affirm it. That's certainly been the direction all along in dealing with this property.
Okay, is there anyone else to speak to the issue? Okay.
And I thank Ms. Williams for allowing me to jump ahead of her again. The terms, and this is Stafford Act Relief and Emergency Assistance Funds that we're talking about, that went into the purchase of this property. Compatible uses are listed as very similar. If you remember the buyout that we did on North Lake Drive, Sunrise Drive portion of our lake, we purchased the property in 1998 following our devastating flood on Lake Compesca. Same funds, same uses. The land can only be used for purposes compatible with open space, recreation, or wetlands management practices, and can include in general such uses like parks and outdoor recreational activities, nature reserves, unimproved pervious parking lots, and other uses in accordance to state laws. Some structures are allowed, but only those public facilities that are open on all sides and functionally related to the open space use. A public restroom, in fact, could be put out there if this was going to be converted to a nature area or wildlife observatory. Really a necessity service is public restrooms, and that can be, according to the funding that we are offered for this, can be constructed there. And other structures as compatible with those general uses, but they have to have FEMA director's approval if there's anything other than that that's going to be built out there. Thanks.
Thank you, Rick.
Rick, is that applicable to Lot 2 or the entire parcel? You
It's
indicated that FEMA and Ducks Unlimited and a private donator was involved in Lot 2, but what does that cover? I mean, does that also cover Lot 1?
I believe it covers Lot 1 more than it does Lot 2, in all honesty.
Okay. Again, I'm going to say I am a real estate broker. I'm going to bring you a buyer that's going to offer the city $5 million for that parcel. Okay? It's a deal that you couldn't turn down. The thing is, they're going to want to go for a special exception, and under this zoning of agriculture, you have the permitted uses and then you have the special exception uses. Okay? That includes manufactured homes, mining, vet clinics, stables and kennels, which are public or private, airport and airport strips, churches and cemeteries, animal feedlots, sewage treatment plants, public and quasi-public institutions or services, livestock sales, commercial greenhouses and nurseries, golf course, driving range, game propagation areas, privately operated outdoor recreation facilities, including campsites, which I read in the paper tonight, where there's camps further, the park over there is going to be expanded, and horticultural services. Okay, I know these are what ifs, but I think these are what ifs that really should bother, that are concerning to us as homeowners who back up to that, who have spent an awful lot of money on building our homes and making them look nice. That's the entrance to the lake on that side, and a lot of people go down South Lake Drive, and they see how nice it is. Based on the report on the city's intended uses for this land, how can we, as homeowners, be assured that the zoning permitted usages and special exceptions, which do include the sewage treatment plants and animal feedlots, will not be put on this land? In other words, what kind of assurance do we have? We would like to know what the city's plans are. We'd like it made a matter of public record. And the other thing, that I wanted to mention. If this belongs to the city now, which I didn't realize it did, and I didn't realize the Redland Art Institute, or the Redland Wetland Center was no longer an option. It's going in, I understand, at Bramble Park instead. That area, and I'm not gonna bother with your cursor, if I might step over here. When people come down, first of all, out there, let me assure you, down to here is a virtual speedway. Not, would you agree? All the other homeowners would agree? In the
Mrs. Williams, we have to stay focused on the issue we're talking about, and that is on the zoning and rezoning of this plat.
I'm sorry, Mayor. What I'm trying to get at is it's the snowmobiles in the wintertime and the four-wheelers in the summertime along that. Is that not a liability to us as citizens if the Watertown owns this? Is that not a liability? I mean, they go right across that whole thing. They cut right across it all the time. Snowmobiles in the winter, four-wheels in the summer. If one of them gets hurt, and it's just a matter of time, who's going to be responsible for that? Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you very much. Herb, do you have anything to add to that?
The only thing I would suggest is that if there's that much concern, from the residents, that we place some sort of deed restriction on the plat, and that should address the problem. Then it's a recorded document that is in the courthouse forever.
That was, when I was looking at that this afternoon, what were the permitted uses under the A1, I was already thinking that if we could put something on that deed so that some councils change, mayors change, residents change, so that sometime in the future, if some overzealous real estate agent does sell that, giving somebody a promise, at least there's that deed attachment that would protect everybody.
The other thing that Brad Johnson suggested, it currently doesn't exist in our ordinance, but might in a future ordinance revision, would be the creation of a conservation district that would be totally earmarked towards this kind of a setting, and that wouldn't allow any of the contemplated uses that you see in the agricultural zone. That might be the best fix to clean it up long term.
Thank you. Anyone else to speak to the issue? Yes, Lana, you can come forward.
Well, I can just stand here.
You need to come up to the mic and identify yourself and then speak into the mic.
Lana Redland. I have a question, and it's kind of confusing to the other people here. When was this property purchased, and purchased from who?
2001.
The warranty deed contains a date of December 28th, 2000 for both pieces of property. It was purchased as a matter of public record from Marlis J. Fye and David L. Fye and Catherine M. Stavig and Marvin J. Stavig.
Okay, thank you, Rick. Lana, are there any other questions that your group has?
Okay, you say it requires 35 acres to put a site or a home or anything on in the country, and that's 31, almost 32. Would you get the other 5 acres from Lot 2?
Ma'am, the exhibit is confusing. That we've got a revised document that actually makes that one lot, not two separate lots. So it's just one lot of about 120 acres total.
And also, how can we be guaranteed as homeowners along there that there will not be, I'll use this as an example, an ethanol plant put there, or any other kind of industrial as over to the airport?
If we attached an addendum to the deed, that, like we were just talking about, that would take care of that.
Well, the
That would
zoning,
always
the
be there.
zoning that's affixed to it, A1, is going to prevent that.
Prevent it? Well, I just use that as an example, or any other airport buildings or buildings in general.
It would,
I guess our comment on the airport, ma'am, is the airport's already too close to the lake. Why would we want to build more structures that would get it even closer?
Okay.
Any other questions, Lana?
I'll think of some.
Okay. We're going to close the public hearing unless someone else has some more information they'd like to give to us. Yes.
Ed Williams, landowner next door. When do you think you can put the change the deed restrictions and all on this instead of just saying we can? When will you?
Stanton, would you address that?
Well, certainly deed restriction is one way you can do it. The city could also impose on itself under state statute restrictive covenants that to both the city and successors in interest to the city. To Ms. Williams' question, should the city ever convey this property, if the restrictive covenants were filed in the chain of title, then the owner would take title being bound by the same restrictive covenants the city imposed on itself. So I guess the answer to Mr. Williams' question is, if the council directs me to prepare a draft of some restrictive covenant or some language that will, in the future, prohibit certain uses or construction, give me that direction, and we can do that at the next council meeting, take it under consideration.
Thank you, Stanton. Anyone else that'd like to speak to the issue? If not, then I'll close the public hearing and we'll go to council action. We'll begin with the annexation, resolution number 07-44 then. Is there a motion then to approve the annexation?
So move.
So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alderman Solom. Any further debate, discussion?
at what time, Stanton, would we make the directive to draft up the covenants?
Probably after you pass these items that are on the agenda.
Thank
Any other discussion, questions? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 2 under council action is zoning and rezoning ordinance number 07-24. Is there a motion then for the approval? So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Giselbeck. Any further questions or debate? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Last item, number 3, plat approval, resolution 07-45. Is there a motion then for the plat approval? So moved by Alderwoman Walder, seconded by Alderman Garnos. Any discussion, questions? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. And then Stanton, after this, then you will prepare some,
Yeah, I'd like the council to give me some direction, Mayor. What would they like me to do?
I would so move that the information that was presented in this conversation be included in the amendment, implying no other use. Well, what's the best way of saying that?
I think if to the extent you want to incorporate language like Rick read from the funding source that place those limitations on the land, we can make that a restrictive covenant on the legally described dirt out there.
And your legal opinion, that's the best way to go on that? To protect that land forever?
I think that if the council's wish is to place permanent restrictions on future use, the best way to do that is to place that in the chain of title at the Register of Deeds office.
Then that's my motion.
okay, there's been a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Alderwoman York. Question, Stanton. This was not on the agenda that we were going to be placing any restrictions onto this property. Do we need to do that?
What I'm suggesting, Mayor, is that this will be placed on the next council agenda for your consideration.
Okay, so that motion then that Mr. Garnos made and Alderwoman York seconded is only to put it on the next agenda. Is that correct?
Yeah, and to direct me to do something.
Right,
yeah.
right, okay. Very good. Any other questions? I'm sorry, you are not allowed to speak at the council meeting. Anybody else? Stan, would you help me? Can Lana speak?
To the extent she wants to speak to the motion that's before the council, if you want to let her, she sure can.
Okay, I'll let her. Lana, you can come forward.
I apologize. apologize. Okay. I just have one question about, this is supposed to be the tall native grass in that area. And it is becoming, or I shouldn't say extinct, use that word. How can they put any building such on over that area if it's considered a tall grass, native grass? That was just a comment.
I'll try to answer this. I think this is why we're going through the drill we're going through to attempt to get it back to that point. Certainly, if we zoned it I-1 or R1 or something, we'd be certainly going against that premise. But it looks to me like we're trying to take all the steps that were wished for by not only the Phi family, but the Redlands when they contemplated the Freshwater Institute, and by FEMA when they were willing to grant us the funds so we could buy property to provide additional flood protection. So with that, I'm not sure what else we can do above and beyond placing the restrictive covenants, and then allow our Upper Big Sioux watershed folks and a few other parties that have had this vision for a while to continue to carry the plan forward.
I guess my only comment is I'm sure the folks that live at Paradise are concerned that it remain as an open space and that it be more for wildlife and that it'll be used in the manner that it was intended to be used. And I think with Stanton putting those restrictions onto that deed and that should give them that comfort level that they're wanting. So, and we'll be dealing with that then at the next meeting. Is that correct, Stanton?
That's my hope.
Okay, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you all very much. Item number 5 has been withdrawn. That's North Lake Drive, second edition. Tracy, did we vote on item 3 of the plat approval under council action?
The plat was
Yes, I
approved,
believe the
yes.
plat has been approved.
That's been approved, and then we vote. Okay, very good. Okay, moving on to item number 6 is the vacation of a portion of 12th Avenue Northeast and Hans second edition. Resolution number 07-47. We'll begin with the public hearing, and I will call on Rick to lead us in the public hearing, starting with Rick.
Thanks, Mayor. It's given me some time to catch a chill here, so that's a good discussion. Your petitioners, Joyce E. Nelson, Peggy M. Haugen, and Verlin Julius, bring this petition for a vacation of a portion of 12th Avenue Northeast. That portion shown and indicated on the in your packet in red on the screen right now, and in the location of the cursor. This went before the Plan Commission received their recommendation on August 8th. The petitioner requests to vacate 117 feet of the platted and dedicated 66-foot right-of-way of 12th Avenue North, located right here. The development of the area and the construction of 12th Avenue Northeast across Willow Creek tributary in accordance with the revised master plan, which is in this location. That's where the crossing occurs now, rather than here. That precludes the need to maintain that section of right-of-way. Of significant importance is the amount of utilities that exist in this area of street. There's a 24-inch diameter reinforced concrete pipe storm sewer constructed along the north edge of the right-of-way, and there's utilities, whether it be gas, water, or electric, all through this portion of right-of-way. The Municipal Utilities Department has recommended that the entire area, if in fact it is vacated, that an easement be maintained for that entire 66-foot, and we might need just a little bit more, at least to have, so we can have 10 feet on the north side of the center line of that storm sewer to maintain all the necessary easements that we're going to need for all of those utilities. So with that, that would end my discussion and the recommendation from the Plan Commission, and staff is on board with that as well, that that portion of the street be vacated.
Thank you, Rick. Is there anyone else in the audience that speaks to the issue? If not, then I'll close the public hearing and go to council action. May I have a motion then for the approval of resolution number 07-47? So moved by Alderwoman Walder. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Alderwoman York.
Question.
Discussion, yes.
Looking at the map, won't there ever be a chance or a need to extend 12th Avenue North?
Never say never, I guess, Mr. Garnos, but there is a crossing at 10th Avenue North. And this is, if you can see the pointer right now with the handshake, that's 22nd or 23rd Street. And it turns right here into 12th Avenue North and crosses that Willow Creek tributary. So it's just a revision in the street layout and a slight revision in the location of that crossing. In all honesty, I don't see the need for another crossing at this location.
Perhaps not now, but later. As you know, the town is growing that way.
Again, I would say that I don't see that need.
Mr. Garnos, to answer your question, the city engineer and I have taken a look at least at sketch plan level of detail on the other side of this drainage way and contemplated what the major street plan would look like as we continued to develop to the east, and it did not contemplate 10th Avenue as being part of that future plan.
Any other questions or discussion? If not, then all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 7 is the 2008 City Budget Ordinance, first reading. That's ordinance number 07-26. Tracy?
I really don't have any comments for you. We have spent a considerable amount of time on the budget. The document that you have on your desk is a 3-page document that sets out the appropriations for the general fund for the city, as well as 15 special revenue funds and our one general obligation debt service fund, as well as the funding sources to pay those appropriations. If you do have any questions, I'd certainly be happy to try to answer those.
I don't have any questions, Tracy, but I do have a couple of comments. In tonight's public opinion, on the front page, there was an article having to do with the addition of a campground out at City Park. That is included in the 2008 budget, the beginning of that project. I think it would behoove all of us on the council, if there is anyone out there anywhere that has any comments to make on the addition of that campground into, for the most part, all of City Park, then I would hope that they would contact their council person and or the people on the park board with their comments, either pro or con, as to the addition of that large campground into City Park. That's my comment on the budget. If anybody has anything else, we've got 2 weeks here before the final reading of the budget, and it would be my hope that if somebody has any comment whatsoever, that they'd get a hold of me or any of their other council people and let them know what their feelings are. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? If not, moving forward, item number 8 is the Pheasant Ridge 5th Edition Plat Approval, Resolution number 07-39. Rick, again?
Thank you. This is brought, Pheasant Ridge, just in working with the Watertown Development Corporation, Focus Watertown, there's been a need identified to rearrange a portion of the area previously master planned for the Pheasant Ridge area. And Craig Atkins is here, I believe, and he's eager to speak, I believe, and he can lead this discussion better than I. I'll just point out what we have on the screen right now is the existing lot layout. This is Pheasant Ridge Drive through the industrial park. You can see the cursor up toward the top of the drawing now at the intersection with 43rd Street East up here. Highway 212 is going to be down here, of course, with Stone's truck down in this portion of the drawing. Lot 12, Lot 11 on this drawing, and Lot 10 are the focus of this preliminary plan revision and the plat that we're talking about. I might bring up now the plat that's being contemplated specifically for your consideration this evening. First of all, the approved preliminary plan, that again, it was approved by the Plan Commission on I don't know, August 8th or even prior to that, but you can see the lots, Lot 4 here, Lot 5, and Lot 6. A slight modification. If you recall, this was more or less the focal point of those three previous lots, 10, 11, and 12 coming in there. So just a little bit different use that's been planned for Lot 4. It's going to fit the need there a little bit better. It is the reason for that's driving the revision to that plat. And I'll bring up the plat right now and what we're doing there. Merely replatting the portions of, I think the description is going to show us it's a replat of lots 4 and 5 of Block 2 of Pheasant Ridge 2nd Edition. And you can see that that's what we're going to end up with. This is Lot 4 that I showed in the preliminary plan. Not platting to its full extent yet. Lots 5 and 6, that'll come in the future. But we created in replatting, we needed to replat as well these, I don't know, dangling portions of lots out here and name them something. So those are Lot 5 for the time being. Craig?
Any comments at all, Craig? None? Okay. May I have a motion then for the approval of resolution number 07-39? So moved by Alderman Meisenheimer. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Alderwoman Arbogast. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Rick. Item number 9 is the tax incremental district number 5, resolution number 07-43. Stan, you'll lead us through that?
Thanks, Mayor. As we have with the previous 4 tax increment districts, we have now held a public hearing with the Plan Commission, and prior to that hearing notified both the county and the school district of the date and time. And before you tonight is the resolution that's going to establish the boundaries of tax incremental district number 5. One thing the Plan Commission did direct us to do at their public hearing was to make certain that only commercial and industrially zoned property was going to be included within that district boundary. And I believe that before you tonight, you should have an aerial that's shaded with yellow, yeah, and that's the proposed boundary of the tax incremental district number 5. And if you look down at the bottom of the diagram, above the S in US Highway 212, you'll note a piece of property whose dimensions are 150 by 300 feet. That's the slight revision in the map from the Plan Commission district boundary recommendation to tonight. So tonight before you is the boundary designation for tax incremental district 5 that resolution 0743, if adopted, will be approving. That pictures that
Is
height
that
of
close?
clarity. Yeah, that's the area. And one thing that will happen, we hope, between adoption of this resolution, if it's approved tonight, and when it becomes effective, is that we actually get a legal description, because that's one thing the Department of Revenue will need in dealing with this tax incremental district, is knowing how to legally describe the dirt that's included in it. And we anticipate that'll happen in the next 20 days.
And this is in regards to the First Avenue extension. Is that correct, Stan?
It is, and for point of reference, all the property that's included in that is largely adjacent to the road expansion.
Very good. May I have a motion then for the approval of resolution number 07-43, the creation of tax incremental district number 5? Motion by Alderman Giselbeck. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alderman Solberg. Any questions or discussion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 10 is the authorization to sell Lot 11 of the Endries Industrial Park, resolution number 07-50. That's to the Watertown Development Company for an industrial development purpose. And I believe Stanton?
Thanks, Mayor. At your direction, I have negotiated the sale of Lot 11 within the Endries Industrial Park, and as we've discussed on numerous occasions past, these sales involve 2 steps. First, the city's going to convey the property to the development company, which Resolution 0750 before you will authorize, and then after that, the development company is going to convey the property to Darren Lockwa under almost identical purchase terms. The property consists of 2.52 acres, and the purchase price is $35,280. And two other points about this sale that I'll mention that are going to sound, I'm sure, familiar to most of you. Under the terms of the original conveyance of this industrial park land, the first $3,000 of each acre sold is deposited into the Watertown Community Foundation's Drug Abuse Prevention Fund, and that amount in this transaction is going to mean $7,560 is going to be deposited into that fund, and the remaining proceeds of the sale after the deposit into that fund are going to be split 50-50 between the city and the development corporation. So with that, I do recommend you adopt this resolution, and I know Craig is here in case you have any questions he might be able to answer.
Is there a motion then for the approval of resolution number 07-50? A motion by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Seconded by Alderwoman York. Any debate, discussion? Questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 11 is the authorization for the mayor to sign consents to allow the Glacial Lakes Energy LLC to assign their rights under agreements. Stan, you'll lead us through all three of those?
Thanks, Mayor, and I'll probably just talk about them all as one.
Okay.
And to the extent anybody in the audience or the council members read them, they're certainly not light reading. But as part of their expansion and some refinancing, Glacial Lakes has asked a number of entities to execute agreements on behalf of their lender. And the three assignments before you tonight can probably be best explained by me giving an example of something the council did in the recent past when you allowed the Airco assignment from Priority Air. If you remember that, one of the documents involved in that transaction was Dakota Bank taking a similar interest like the First National Bank of Omaha is taking in these agreements. Basically, Dakota Bank said with the Airco Aviation transaction, to the extent they ever need to step into the shoes of the city's tenant, that assignment of rights would allow them to do that. And so these three assignments are similar to that in that whatever interest GLE has in, the three of them are the easement agreement, the railroad construction and financing agreement, and the railroad spur agreement are going to be assigned to the First National Bank of Omaha as additional collateral security for the indebtedness. That's how it's described in the three agreements. I recommend you authorize the mayor to sign these as part of a single motion, and for the benefit of the council, the Municipal Utility Board was recently presented with similar assignment documents, and they authorized execution of them. They're asking for similar agreements from the Watertown Development Company and from the Watertown-Cottington County Regional Rail Authority, and I'm satisfied all the entities are going to sign them.
Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
So moved by Alderman Garnos. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alderman Solberg. Any discussion or questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Stanton. Item number 12 is approval of a contract with First District Association of Local Governments for Geographic Information System and Land Use Survey Services. And Rick?
Thank you, Mayor. We've included the proposal, about 3 pages in your packet, just to summarize the 4 tasks that will be a part of that proposal. Task 1 is to gather all the existing data that First District has, that is available on a public domain basis. And if we see that it's going to be usable, let's put it in our geographic information system. They're going to help us out by collecting that information, bringing it on DVDs or CDs, implementing it, or inputting it into our GIS system here at City Hall. Task 2, we have master plans that we'd like to be able to illustrate to our public that, yeah, these are the areas that we have preliminary plans approved and drainage master plans approved, and also update the plat and ownership parcel data layers. We're getting a little bit behind on that. It's been since March 2006, since the information that we're using our geographic information system as to plats. Again, it's a little bit over a year old, and it's time to update that. So we use it every day. It just needs to be updated periodically, and quite honestly, in task 3, it's a pretty good segue. We're proposing that in task 3 that we contract with GIS. When we get a plat request in, we're going to work specifically with and directly with First District in a very timely basis to develop, first of all, what format should these plat requests come in so that we can just ship them over electronically to First District. they can incorporate them into our GIS, and we can use those for meetings just like this and the Plan Commission. Then task 4, included in task 3, once it's been approved, we will make the final revisions to our geographic information system and update that file. Task 4 will result in a detailed land use study. We'd like to get a handle on what kind of uses are in each one of our zoning districts. We'll have to make then, from that information, we can make a decision at the Planning Commission and City Council levels. Are those land uses appropriate? Are there necessary changes to our ordinance? So that's what we would like to do with that. This comes with the recommendation of your staff and the Public Works Committee. You can see the cost estimate on an annual basis is not to exceed $42,560. I'll point out I don't anticipate us hitting that because item or task 3 is around $1,000 to $1,500 per month, and of course we've got 2/3 of the year behind us, so we will not reach that 42,000 mark, but that's what we would like the authority to enter into an agreement up to that amount.
Thank you, Rick. Is there a motion then for the approval of the contract with First District Association of Local Governments for Geographic Information System and Land Use Survey Services? So moved by Alderwoman Walder. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Alderwoman Arbogast. Any discussion, questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Rick. Item number 13 is the approval of the swimming pool agreement with the Watertown School District for the 2007-2008 school year. John Small?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Didn't know I was supposed to say anything about it, but I will. Never lost for words. So we've had a contract with the school district as far as I think with the pool was built back in '74 with the city. And it's just, Tracy, help me out. Is it a 2-year renewal? 1-year renewal. And we hope that you'll renew it again because it's a good program for the school system and for the rec center.
Thank you, John.
The rec center receives $20,000 from the school district under this agreement for the school's use of the pool.
Is there a motion then for the approval of the swimming pool agreement with the Watertown School District for the 07-08 school year?
Motion.
So moved by Alderman Giselbeck, seconded by Alderwoman York. Any questions, discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Didn't mean to wake you up over there. Item number 14 is authorization for the mayor to sign documents relating to the agreement with the Transportation Security Administration for reimbursement of law enforcement services at the Watertown Regional Airport. And Tracy?
Thank you. The current agreement with the TSA for security at the airport is about to expire. This would provide a replacement agreement for a period of 5 years for a total potential reimbursement to the city of a little over $196,000. It works out to about $39,000 a year. We bill the TSA each month for the actual hours that the police department spends at the checkpoint at the airport, and the TSA reimburses us those costs. So I would recommend that you authorize the mayor to sign this agreement.
Is there a motion to that effect? So moved by Alderman Solberg, seconded by Alderman Heller. Any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 15 is the Upper Big Sioux River Watershed Project grant documents. And Mike, you'll lead us through that?
Thank you for the opportunity. I had a little dental work done this afternoon, and I hope you'll take pity and not ask too many questions.
Okay.
What we're asked the mayor to sign is a contract agreement with the DENR for $50,000 of EPA money to match the SRF funds of $140,000 that were awarded this past year.
Can I have a motion then to allow us to sign the grant letter of agreement with the South Dakota Department of Environment and Natural Resources in the amount of $50,000 for 2008? So moved by Alderman Wilkins, seconded by Alderman Meisenheimer. Any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank
Next,
you for
Mike.
taking pity.
Yeah. Okay, next we have the approval of the grant application for the EPA funding in the amount of $811,500. That covers 2008 and 2010 A motion, please? So moved by Alderman Garnos, seconded by Alderman Wilkins. Any questions or discussion? Tracy, you want to elaborate a little bit?
Just one thing I would point out to you, that this is a 3-year program as past grants have been for the Upper Big Sioux project. And the city's commitment in this is for $50,000 per year, and we have included that $50,000 in the 2008 budget, so.
Very good. Any questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 16 is the approval of a contract change order number 2 to the contract with AP and Sons Construction for the 11th Street East Storm Sewer Project in the amount of $1,684.88. And Sarah?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item really reflects an adjustment with 3 separate things going on. The first thing was that there was a box structure which was to be cast in place, and we redesigned it to have a different top half, and that saved $1,000. The second item was modifying 2 inlets so that a gas main could pass over them. So they were lowered, and that cost $900. And then the last thing is the rest of those items which are shown on the change order. Furnish and install twin 12-inch reinforced concrete pipe, modify 3 inlets, restock fee for unused 18-inch reinforced concrete pipe, and reduction of quantity of 18-inch reinforced concrete pipe. That was for a gas main, which we didn't realize was as large as it was. The 18-inch pipe, which was designed, would have conflicted with the gas main. And so we were able to clear the gas main by putting 2 smaller 12-inch pipes side by side to go over the gas main. And so those are the fees that were involved in making that change.
Thank you, Sarah. Is there a motion then for the approval of change order number 2?
So moved.
So moved by Alderwoman Walder and seconded by Alderwoman Arbogast. Any questions? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
Item number 17 is authorization for additional concrete work under the Uptown Streetscape renovation project. Herb?
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. In your council packet were 3 change orders for a total of $2,551. Then I handed out some additional ones we got after the agenda went out. The first change order was for removal and replacement of 79 feet of curb and gutter in front of Harbor Bar for a cost of $1,700. The second change order was to replace additional 16 feet of curb and gutter and 20 feet of straight curb for a cost of $426. And the last was for 75 square feet of sidewalk in front of Richter's for a cost of $425. Those 3 change orders we were able to discuss with the Public Works Committee and comes with their recommendation for approval. Dave Peterson also, after that meeting, had been working with Dave Todd and Gray Construction on some sidewalk and curb and gutter issues on the east side of North Broadway, south of First Avenue North, to both fix defective sidewalk and to also improve drainage from the sidewalk and the alley between the Harbor Bar and First Premier Bank. I handed out a list of what the 5 items were that were included in the second document. One item was to replace extra sidewalk on the east side of Broadway to slope to the new curb and add a $1,106. Second item was to replace additional sidewalk on the east side of North Broadway at existing light poles for utilities, an add of $119. Third was to replace extra sidewalk on the east side of North Broadway at First Premier Parking to create the slope to match with the curb and gutter for an add of $576. And the last sidewalk fix was to replace additional sidewalks at the east end, or the east side of North Broadway at the Harbor Bar alley entrance for an add of $645. Those combined came to $2,446. Also, there was a steam tunnel in front of the building at the corner of North Broadway and First Avenue North that need to be filled. We've encountered several of those. I think there's still 2 more on Broadway that we're gonna have to do, but this one was for an add of $561. So when you add all of those change orders up, the total amount comes to $5,558. I realize this last group we didn't get to talk to a committee about, but to keep the project moving forward, we continue to make good progress, and we don't want to get slowed down. So I'm hoping that you'll authorize us to spend $5,558 on these change orders so we can keep this project going.
Budget-wise, how are we doing, Herb, on this?
Glad you asked. We have a budget of $646,000, including contingency. When I include all the change orders, including the ones that you have in front of you tonight, we're at $613,820. So we certainly have significant or sufficient money in our budget to cover not only these change orders, but a couple more that I anticipate we'll still see coming that we'll talk with Public Works about next week.
Thank you, Herb. May I have a motion then to approve these additional change order work for the Uptown Streetscape renovation project in the amount of $5,558? So moved by Alderman Solberg. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Solom. Any questions or discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 18 is the approval to write off uncollectible ambulance accounts receivable of $5,898.77. Is there a motion, please?
Give you a motion, we did pretty good, but went down $4,000.
Motion by Alderman Giselbeck. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Alderman Meisenheimer. Questions?
A concern was brought to me regarding these write-offs. Have these been through the collection agencies?
Probably have helped.
Rather than just writing them all off as uncollectible, it may be a better term to unallowed expenses from Medicare. Medicare will only allow so much money to be paid on an assignment. And what you're seeing there, a lot of that write-off is actually the dollars that are being written off that we cannot collect from Medicare due to federal regulations.
Okay.
Actually, Mr. Garnis, the list that you have in your agenda and the list that our auditors require the council to approve are those accounts that where the city has exhausted our collection procedures or the collection procedures that the fire department has established. So these accounts are being turned over to the collection agency for collection. They have not been run through their gamut of collection procedures at this point. We're simply taking them off our books so that our books aren't unrealistically inflated in terms of the receivables that we expect to collect. We will see a certain percentage of these collected by the collection agency, and of course they take their fees and then remit the balance to us.
Well, Tracy, I have a question too on this. Now, then when we charge and Medicare allows only a lesser amount, that amount then we also write off. Is that correct? But that's not turned over to any collection agency.
That's correct. Those lists do not come to the council for approval. It's simply a management adjustment. It's not really writing it off because it's not considered uncollectible because legally we can't pursue collecting that in the first place.
So anything that comes before the council will be going to the collection agency.
That's correct.
Okay.
Question number 2. Most of these, are these trips to Sioux Falls hospitals, or is there any way to...
It's real hard to separate them out as to what exactly they are. Undoubtedly, some of them are trips to Sioux Falls hospitals, some are local calls also.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 19 is the approval of an application for the abatement or refund of taxes. That's Endries, Lot 1, Block 2, Endries Investment, 5th edition, in the amount of $401.78. Is there a motion then for the approval?
So move.
So moved by Alderwoman York. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Alderwoman Arbogast. Any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 20 is a motion to approve the bills and payroll and authorize payment. May I have a motion, please? So moved by Alderman Heller. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Solberg. Any questions, discussion? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Item number 21 is the open, and I refer to you to your handout. We'll begin with the RFP for a public safety building. Chief VTech, Chief Youngerman, and I believe there will be someone from Lake area too participating. Mike, okay?
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Thank you for entertaining us tonight. We come before you tonight with a request for proposal. This is a request coming from the Watertown Police Department and the Watertown Fire Department. And essentially what we're asking you tonight is authorization for a request for proposal to study the existing needs and future needs of the fire and the police departments. We want to take you back and go over a little history with you. Back in 2006, you'll recall that Health Analytics performed a study of our ambulance service, and which also included looking at the facilities that the fire department currently lives in, if you will. And we took an excerpt from that report, and essentially they deemed the facility that the fire department is currently using as marginal condition, and as such does not provide a positive work environment that engenders employee or community pride. We'll talk about some other aspects of that report later in the presentation. Also, going back in time, you'll recall that Mayor Fox put together and appointed a needs committee. At that time, the focus of that purpose and that needs committee was to look at both the needs of county and city law enforcement facilities, to include our court system. The mayor appointed several individuals who are listed on the board there to adequately get a representation from the city and the county. They came back to you sometime in 2007, and at that time, and I have bolded there the police department because that's what we're addressing tonight. And essentially, the latter part of that sentence, it says it has been determined that the facilities we currently utilize are not adequate to meet today's needs of Watertown and the surrounding communities, and that was in November of 2006. In 2007, there was a decision made by county and city officials not to jointly proceed with a multi-agency criminal justice complex, and that was certainly a decision that the county made, and I think it was just based on finances alone, is my understanding. So then in July of 2007, Mayor Fox, Alderman Meisenheimer, and Alderwoman Arbogast met with the fire chief and myself, and we began discussing what Mike and I had been discussing for some time regarding looking at the existing needs of the fire and the police departments. And based on those conversations that we had, we were given authorization to proceed to the Finance Committee, so we did. We met with the Finance Committee on the 21st of August of 2007, and the request at that time was for authorization for a request for proposal for a needs assessment study to look at both the police department and the fire department's needs. And we come to you tonight with their unanimous support for this request. And we'd also like to mention that there exists in this 2007 budget $23,000 to cover the expenses associated with the needs assessment study. We believe that the police department and the fire department are in fact partners in public safety. If you'll take time, next time you look at a public opinion edition, you'll note very obviously, just looking at the photograph, that you'll oftentimes see a policeman and a fireman there anytime that there's a wreck, whether it be on 212 or somewhere else in the city, or whether we're responding to a natural disaster, or whether we're just performing an exercise at the airport, or perhaps at Glacial Lakes ethanol plant. You'll see police and fire there together. So we are in fact partners and have been for many years.
As Joe said, thank you for entertaining us this evening, and we're just going to go through a few of the history lessons for the Watertown Fire Department. Our present station was built in 1962. And at that time, we had 17 full-time employees. The city at that point was 14,077 people, and we had a land mass of 8.4 square miles. Of note, in that picture, that was actually a picture in the early 70s. And as you can see, that was what that station was actually designed for, 1 truck per bay. At this point now, we're 31 full-time employees. We're 21,247 population for the city of Watertown, and we're now up to 24 square miles. And as you can see, we are indeed full. Our building is antiquated and outdated. Some of the things we're lacking, obviously, is space for equipment, space for our employees. We have no training facilities. And as we continue to partner with the state in our hazmat response and also our technical rescue training, we receive more and more equipment all the time from the state, but we are obviously running out of places to put that equipment. We're landlocked. We have no place to train. And as you folks all realize, that electricity and water don't mix. We can't really spray any water in the back of the fire department because we're surrounded by highline wires. So that's a danger for our firefighters. And we really can't spray the water out front because of the Stormwater Act, Phase 2 Stormwater Act, which requires the citizens of Watertown not to spray water that's going to go down the storm drains. And as a member of the Watertown community, we really feel that it's important that we also don't do that. Glacial Lakes Energy, prior to their expansion, was producing 50 million gallons of ethanol per year. And at that point, we had 10 trains that were coming in and out of Watertown. Now we're expanding to 100 million gallons, so we will just have to assume that the trains were either going to become longer or more, they'll be here more frequently. And also with the fertilizer plant, that's also going to increase the frequency of trains in the Watertown area. One of the things that we have, just like everybody else, is we have no ability to get to the other side of the tracks when the train's going by. And most people who live on the west side of the tracks realize that there's getting to be more and more train traffic all the time. And also we must maintain people out at the airport. Every time there's a commercial flight that comes into Watertown, we have to make sure we have a firefighter at the station out there. One of the proposals sitting before FAA right now is a proposal that for all commercial flights, and Watertown would be considered the proper class for this, that it would require 3 firefighters on scene for each fire, or each flight. And that will really put a crimp in our style. Obviously, we're a lack of computer software and infrastructure. One of the things that Health Analytics identified for us, too, was the fact that whereas we were doing a good job, and what we weren't doing was capturing the information. So if you can't prove that you did it, officially you didn't do it. And we don't have the software to support that at this point. Also, we have no place to store fire or arson evidence. We have a lot of challenges with our current location as to our response time. Really, the only thing that we can do by way of response time to shorten our response time, to improve it, is to make sure that we station position our stations in a proper location. And as I said, with the hazmat responsibilities, we're just running out of space. We need more space than what we have at this point.
Let me just add, this evening, I left my home on the west side of town, probably at about 20 after. And as I was approaching the 4th Avenue railroad track, and I believe Gordy was probably behind me, it took me right at 20 minutes because there was a train on the track, so I timed it. Matter of fact, I called the fire chief and I said, you know, this is a really good night for a council meeting. I said, I know Russ Wilkins and I know Gordy Garnos is probably going to be behind me if they didn't leave early enough. I'm guessing that you probably got caught by the train as well. And you sat there and waited, right? And I'm seeing some nods, so there's a valid point. The fire department...
I had to go down to 10th Avenue to cross.
Okay, there you go.
There were 3 intersections plugged.
Yes, sir, there was. But I just stayed there just to time it, just to see how long it did take, and it was right at 20 minutes. In fact, at one point, there were 2 trains on the track. So, that's a valid point. For the fire department, they're station-based. The police department, we're not, because we're out and about all over the place, and we have multiple cars that are out. But whenever the fire department gets a call, which includes an ambulance going out, they're challenged by those railroad tracks and where they're physically located. The Watertown Police Department was built in 1975. And at that time, we consisted of 28 full-time employees. And in 1980, the population of Watertown was 15,649. And at that time, Watertown was 11.5 square miles. In fact, the photograph that you see on the screen is the photograph that was taken of the police department in front of the building that we currently occupy. It's 2007, and now we have 49 full-time employees, and of course our population is 21,000. And Watertown is 24 square miles. We've grown considerably. Some of the calls for service, just to give you an idea of how busy we are and the need for additional personnel, the need for additional facilities. And I think what we're experiencing is no more than growing pains. But you can see that from 2003, we had 23,000 calls. And then, of course, in 2006, we had 29,000 calls. I know yet this year we're going to surpass that probably by 31,000. For 32 years, the Watertown Police Department has been located in a county-owned building. And with that, there have been some challenges. One of the challenges that has been going on for some time, however, it's just been recently made public, are the sewage problems that we're faced with by the jail. The basement of the police department is physically located underneath the jail. So anytime a prisoner stuffs a sheet or whatever down the toilet, what we have and what we experience in the basement of the police department is simply raw sewage. It's not very pleasant. It's a health concern, and it's also a morale factor, to say the least. We have challenges regarding shelters for police cars because we don't have any. We have one single car garage. In the wintertime and inclement weather, we borrow a pickup truck with a plow on the front of it from Mike Rye, and thanks to Mike Rye for that, because we shuffle the cars back and forth about every 2-hour intervals. Parking space in and of itself is very inadequate, and it's also not secure, so that if anybody wanted to, they could come and tamper with a patrol car because it's right there on the street, easy for the pickings. We lack on-site storage for bikes and speed trailers and other large evidence and equipment that we need. In fact, we have some of those things that are stored at the city auditorium thanks to Roger Adams, who's given us a little space over there. And also we have some things stored out at the street shop out by the high school. The existing interview room we have is inadequate. The recording equipment there is inadequate. We have a lack of office space and lack of workspace. In fact, I have some offices in closets that once were closets and made for closets. We have some poor evidence areas. We had a lot of water damage, and it was just yet earlier this year when Mayor Fox and City Attorney Stanton Fox assisted with that, and that leak was finally repaired by the county. And there's ventilation problems, and you folks can well imagine that sometimes we have to take in bloody clothes and things that have biohazard materials on it, and it's evidence. And if somebody gets cut at a bar or stabbed or whatever, or anywhere for that matter, we have to preserve that as evidence. And so we don't have any place to properly dry that. And so that becomes of concern. We don't have a secure lot for vehicles that we have to hold as evidence. In fact, we don't have a lot at all. It's right out there at the street department. The basement of the Watertown Police Department is not handicapped accessible. You can go out that ramp or up that ramp on the outside, but then once you get into the lobby area, you can't get downstairs. The only elevator in the building is on the sheriff's department side, and for the most part, the sheriff's office closes at 5, so there's no way to get down to the basement. The lobby area is very inadequate, and for any of you that's ever been there, just imagine for 1 second if you had to come in and report a crime, and maybe perhaps it was a burglary. Well, you know, that's not so personal, but just imagine for a minute, if you will, that you're coming into the lobby area to report a more personal crime like a rape. Well, also housed in that lobby, and sometimes many times simultaneous with you coming in there, are inmates that are being released from the jail, and there's just no area for privacy whatsoever or for an officer to conduct an interview. We have a lack of space in our dispatch center, which is tremendous. We have nowhere to go. We have nowhere to store any additional records. Our animal control officer, he is housed outside of that building because we have no place to put him. In short, the Watertown Fire Department is 45 years old. The Watertown Police Department, well, it's 32 years old. Both departments have outgrown their existing locations. Both departments are landlocked. We face facility challenges every day. But on the good side, we work together all the time. And so the conversation that the fire chief and I have had on many occasions is whether or not it makes sense to co-locate. Some of the opportunities that we envision is that both the police and fire departments are municipal departments. The dispatch center, they dispatch for both fire and police. We have initiatives underway to provide support where the fire department was gigged in that health analytics study for not capturing the data. The police department, we have done a pretty good job at capturing what we do. In fact, Mike has had firemen over at the police department, and we've plotted every fire hydrant in the city in the existing software that the police department has now. So we feel that we can provide them with that infrastructure that they need to help them capture that data. The study that we're proposing, we're asking that it study whether or not the fire or the police department should be co-located in a public safety building. And last but not least, an opportunity exists to vacate the space that the police department currently maintains, which would provide additional space for the county. In fact, last week, Mike and I were asked to meet at the Government Affairs Committee with the mayor and some of the council people that are here. Commissioner Jack Thomas was in attendance, and he confirmed that if, in fact, the police department moved out, that would provide the county the additional space that they need, perhaps for a work release program. Mike?
As we were going around and looking at different things, we were looking for property that was already owned by the city, figuring that would be the most cost-effective way to pursue this. Some of the locations that we looked at, and actually Joe had already taken care of this when they initially were looking at the combined facility with the county. There was quite a few different pieces of property around the airport, but the most prevalent and the one that we felt would work the best is actually located right off of the end of the runway. If you come down on South Lake Drive, coming past Derby Downs, when you turn at 4th Avenue, heading back into town, it would be the property directly ahead of that. The property that's outlined in red here. The yellow part is actually a no structures zone. There's no property that would be able to be built there, or no facilities would be able to be built there. But we also need a lot of training room, and that would be a wonderful place for us to spray water and operate our trucks and whatnot.
The other thing that would be nice about this location is Mike has ran some test runs with his trucks, and if we were able to, and once again, this is a possible site location, but if this location became a reality, that would eliminate the need to have a separate fire station at the airport. In other words, they would respond right from the fire station, and they would be right into the south end of the airport in a matter of minutes. They've run some test runs to see if in fact they could meet the FAA requirements, and I think they had some time to lose, or time to give them some, there you go, spare, thank you. Advantages to this possible site location, and as I said, this is just one of many that could be considered, is there's 75 acres of land there, and it's already paid for, and it's been released by the FAA. It's readily accessible to the airport. It eliminates the need for a separate fire station at the airport. It's readily accessible to Highway 212, to Lake Campesca, and to the new southern bypass, which will be built. The location eliminates the fire department's obstacles with the railroad tracks, as an old station, the old station can serve as a substation. And that would be, if in fact you approve this proposal tonight, this request, one of the things that we would advocate would be that the old station would serve the purpose of a substation until future substation could be built on the east side of town. And if in fact that became a reality, both sides of Watertown would be adequately covered. And then, of course, I want to turn the mic over this time to our guest, because we want to speak about the opportunity that this presents itself with Lake Area Tech.
Mike Courtney with Lake Area Tech, and I just wanted to point out that Lake Area Tech signed out a letter of support and coordination or cooperation with both the fire department and police department on this effort. We look forward to, as we start up, the state of South Dakota has approved us for a med-fire rescue program starting in 2008, and we look forward to cooperating on equipment and working through making sure that we're buying equipment that's usable to both the fire and the police department, and that they can use and will add benefit when we're not using it, as well as classroom facilities and equipment in the classrooms. So.
Thank you. So why should the police and fire consider co-locating? Well, in our opinion, it makes just good common sense, because in fact we are public safety partners, and we think we should share common ground. But what we're asking for tonight is for a needs assessment, a request for proposal to cover the bulleted items. What we're asking for is, we don't want to have tunnel vision by any means, but what we're asking for is this study to look at certain things. Efficiencies that can be gained by co-locating. Analysis of current and future space needs of the fire and police departments. Evaluation of existing fire and police facilities for potential renovation and or expansion to meet current and future needs. Development of space needs for fire and police departments, which includes a cost estimate. We don't want to ask for a study that doesn't make sense. We don't want to ask for a study that doesn't have dollars attached to it. In fact, we want this study to come back and translate into dollars and cents, so that the community of Watertown knows exactly what's being proposed before them. And then also, and last but not least, is to look at the variety of areas that are potentially possible, an assessment of various site options. That concludes our presentation tonight, and this request for proposal.
Are there any questions?
Council members have any questions before we go
Chief,
forward?
I know it's putting you on the spot, but do you have an idea of the cost? I know this study will give us an idea, but is it Aberdeen that's building a new police station?
Yes, sir. In fact, I met with the chief from Aberdeen today at a meeting in Brookings. They are building a fire and a police station, two separate facilities, which includes a comm center, and it's he quoted me $9 million. Now, one of the things that has jacked that up is that they're doing an underground garage. That's two separate facilities, and the total price is $9 million.
Thank you. Any other questions?
What's the, excuse me, what's the process for taking bids? Or do you interview, or what's that process?
I'm going to have to turn that over to Tracy Turback.
Consulting services are not subject to the state bid requirements, so that the process can be whatever the city wants it to be. If that's going to be left up to the finance committee or public safety committee or the full council, I mean, that's certainly open to discussion and decision.
Thank you. Any other questions?
Yes, we've heard this report a couple of times already, and we keep hearing the one site that you've selected. What other sites have you looked at?
I got with Eric from the airport and basically asked Eric to look around the airport. We were essentially looking for land that was already paid for by the city. And in answer to your question, that's all that we've looked at is land that's around the airport. I met with Tracy, and I'm not aware of any other land that's already paid for. I guess our thought process, Gordy, was to have one less obstacle, if you will, and try to find land that was already paid for and owned by the city. So whatever else might be out there regarding this study, we'd have to do some more homework, I would say, ahead of time, get with Tracy and just find out what other locations are doable.
The proposal, request for proposal, only, the way I understand it, covers a joint facility. I think there's some leeway there, or should be some leeway there for separate facilities. And I would certainly hope that's included in the request for proposals.
Actually, the request for proposal, if you look at the last slide, it says whether or not we should co-locate.
That's what I wanted to hear.
Carol, you had a question, I believe, or?
I've kind of been real interested in this. It's an excellent report you folks gave, and we'll get the study done, and I think everybody will be really pleased with the results. You did a good job, both of you, all three of you.
Would you want to rephrase your motion so that we get it correct? It's an RFP for?
It's a request for proposal for a needs assessment study of the fire and police departments.
Very good. Is there a motion to that effect?
So move.
So moved by Alderwoman York. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Alderman Meisenheimer. Any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 2 on the open is a pay request for H&W Contracting. Herb, you'll lead us through that one. This is on your handout also.
Yes, I will. Application for payment for, from H&W Contracting for $497,625.51 for the lift station improvements at Lake Compesco was not submitted with the August bill. The consultant engineer working with the city on the project prepared an application for payment and sent it to the contractor on August 17th, at the same time he emailed a copy of that application to the city engineer. Dave didn't submit a copy of the application prior to the cutoff for the August bills because he didn't have a signed copy, although in the past we certainly, I think, have submitted signed or unsigned copies just so that we could get them included in the bill packet. So Dave felt that this is a fairly significant amount of money that wasn't totally the fault of the contractor for not getting included in this pay request. It includes half of their mobilization fee in addition to the initial work that they have done on, I believe, 3 or 4 lift stations to date. So at Dave Peterson's request, he requested Tracy to place it on the open and also emailed the city council so you had time to think about it before. So we're hoping that you'll consider positively this request for payment for H&W and include it in the payroll.
Is there a motion then to approve the payment to H&W Contracting? So moved by Alderman Solberg. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderwoman Walder. Any questions or discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Herb. Item number 3 on the open is City Park Camping Extension. Gordy, you wanted to?
Yes, I would just like to bring to the council's attention, and it's more or less of a carryover of George's comments regarding the campground. It's been brought to my attention that there are some veterans groups that are concerned about the distance between the proposed campground and the Veterans Memorial. How many feet or yards is there expected to be between the two? Roger?
Well, I don't think I can answer it in terms of feet. I mean, we've got a conceptual drawing of where
the expansion would be. I believe, based on that conceptual drawing, the northernmost part of the campground expansion would end somewhere near the picnic shelters that are in the picnic area, and I would guess that to be several hundred feet south of the memorial.
Has the Parks Board been alerted to any of these concerns?
They were never brought to the park board to my knowledge. The veterans group was just at a park board meeting requesting permission to redesign the front entrance to the memorial, and were given permission to do so. You know, keep in mind the Veterans Memorial Committee built a playground very close to their memorial. So if there's issues of, you know, noise or that kind of thing, you know, it evidently wasn't a concern when they chose to build the playground a lot closer to the memorial than the campground expansion would be.
Roger, on that same topic, has the park board not gone through the options for the expansion of City Park and the problem of the overcrowded campground? Park board's been all through this, correct? The way I understand, you've done some extensive work in getting the permission to have more camping pads there and everything.
When the state law passed that limited municipalities from expanding or building new campgrounds, we consistently, year after year, had the camping public coming to us requesting us to expand, and every year we had to give them the same reason why we couldn't. And then a number of years ago, the city of Aberdeen got the state law changed that would allow a municipality to expand if it got written permission from private campgrounds within a 15-mile radius that were licensed by the state health department. And once that change in the law took place, we did approach one of the local campgrounds, and at that point in time, he was not interested in giving us written permission. So throughout a long period of time of knowing that there was a need, we'd always responded with either the state law wouldn't allow it, or a local campground that was licensed would not, give us their permission. At this point in time, however, those two licensed campgrounds within that 15-mile radius have given us written permission, and the campground expansion was a part of the request by the Park and Rec Board to the council for our CIP and our 5-year CIP.
The answer to your question, Nancy, is yes.
Thank you.
They have talked it over at great length. My indication tonight and asking for comment to the council and to the park board was to give the general public of people of Watertown a chance to comment on that, now that they know from the article in the paper tonight that the thought is to expand that campground. If they look at that conceptual drawing in the paper tonight, they'll notice that almost all of the area north of where the park board house is now will be taken up by campground. And I don't think it's a problem, like Roger said, that it's getting too close to the memorial on that conceptual drawing. But on the other hand, I think it's only fair to give the general public the chance to comment on whether they think City Park should be taken up almost entirely by campground. So that was my idea when I brought that up early tonight, and I certainly would appreciate any calls, pro or con, and I suspect the campers are probably going to give you a lot of calls, but I hope the general public will take the time to look at that drawing, that conceptual drawing, and decide whether they want all of that area to be taken up by campground.
Thank you, George. I appreciate that. And I would too encourage people to call if they have comments.
I would encourage you also to, I can provide you an aerial photo with a scaled overlay of the proposed conceptual campground drawing. And that is the drawing you should look at, not the schematic in the paper tonight, because if you look at it, what was done was the existing campground was just flopped over into the picnic area. That's a 48 unit campground. We're talking 25 units. So it appears to take up more space in the PO's drawing than it does in reality.
And Roger, there is still room left for picnickers, right? Just plain people that come out there to have a picnic over on the far north end.
Yeah, the area between the parking lots and the beach and around the picnic shelters wouldn't be affected by the area that we're talking about.
Roger, what is the estimated cost of this 25 pads?
Phase 1 in 2008, I believe, was around 105,000. That would, put in the paved loop road with gravel pads, provide the electricity and water to each pad, the campfire grills, the picnic tables, that kind of thing. And then phase 2 in 2009 would build a restroom shower area in the middle of that expansion. So, and that was, I believe, 112,000.
Thank you, Roger. Anything else to come before the open? If not, we'll move on to old business. Yes, Stan.
Mayor, I'm not certain, but as the council recalls, when they passed the ordinance creating the Charter Commission, that the members of the council were supposed to provide their two names to you by tonight's meeting, and I'm just wondering if you can report to the community what response you've had and if those names have been provided to you.
You can announce them.
Well, I I don't have that information with me, Stan, so I know I haven't received all the names yet. I believe a little over half, so.
Do you want to go around the table and?
I'm sure those that have given me their names, they could probably remember them. Carol, you want to start?
Sure, my two names are Mrs. Marilyn Creasy, and my second name is Becky Morlock Reeves. So those two names are in, and they're very happy to serve on this committee.
Thank you, Carol. Duffy? George?
Sure, I'd be happy to. My two names are Clark Redlinger and Rich Kosher.
Al?
I have Laverne McPeak right now, and I've got another prospect that's supposed to let me know, and I should know tomorrow or the next day.
Okay. Gordy?
My two appointees are Ron Paterka and Lester Urban, former city councilman.
Okay, I haven't made my appointments yet. Nancy?
Yes, I have asked Sandy Sheehan and Gary Cruz, who have both said yes very enthusiastically.
Thank you. Dennis?
I have asked Steve Dutenhofer and Andy Hawkins.
Thank you.
Tom Beednell and Barry Wilford.
Thank you, John.
I have asked Gordy Ostis and Francis Carney, and they've both agreed.
Okay. Russ?
I've contacted James Seaman and Gary Williams, and both have accepted that position.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Anything else, Stanton? Okay, very good. Moving on then to items under the old business. Is there any items under the old business? Any further items? If not, under new business, is there any new business to come before the council? Are there any liaison member reports? We will need to go into executive session, and it's in regards to some contract negotiations, and I do not anticipate any action when we come out. So if I may have a motion then to go into executive session?
So moved.
So moved by Alderwoman York. Is there a second? Seconded by Alderman Solberg. All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carried.